Ooh, that looks tasty.
Welcome folks to The Hungry Gamer is back with another game review, and today we're talking about Tokaido Duo from Antoine Bauza and Noide and published by Stone Meyer Games. And I do apologize if I mispronounced those names. Now what this game is this is a two-player variant of Tokaido. And I don't say version because the game plays substantially differently than Tokaido, but it has the same vibe and is also a journey around an area of Japan. In this case, it is an island. And at its core, this is a dice drafting game with a little bit of, I guess I will call it a recipe fulfillment. And what will be happening is you'll be rolling the dice each turn, and then drafting dice which will allow you to move your different workers around the board. And you have a pilgrim, you have a merchant, and you have an artist. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played and want to jump into my final thoughts, then you will go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk about how this game is played. To start each round, you'll roll all three dice, and then the first player will get to draft one of the dice, then the second player drafts the next one, then the first player drafts a third, and then the other player rolls the dice, and off you go. And the only thing I need to point out about these dice is, first, there's one die for each of the different workers. And second, you must always move exactly the distance that has been rolled on the die unless you've collected one of these power-ups that changes that rule. So, I'll move those out of the way and we'll just talk about how each of them works. We'll start with the artist here, and the artist is this kind of beigey die. And what happens is, you are allowed to move your artist wherever you want, crossing these yellow lines. So if I had a single movement, I could move to here or here. With a movement of 2, I could go 1, 2, I could go 1, 2, I could go 1, 2, 1, 2. It doesn't really matter as long as you are not crossing back over yourself or trying to go through this village in the middle. Then, wherever it is that you wind up, we'll just pretend that I wound up over here, you will then have a choice. You can either paint some paintings, in which case you look at how many meeples are around the area you're in this case 1, 2, 3, and if this painter happened to be right here as well, then it would be 4, and that's how many of your paintings over here you get to flip over. You start at the top left, and you simply flip them over, and that is what you have painted. The other thing that you can do is, wherever it is that you stopped, if the top left painting matches that symbol, which in this case it does, you can paint it and remove it from your board, and now you have that many points. And it's important to note that you actually have to go here, 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 and then kind of follow this snake all the way around. But if you manage to clear your board, you'll gain 40 points at the end of the game, and that is the first of the end game triggers. Then the next one that we have here is we have the merchant. And the merchant uses this orange die, and they have to follow these paths. So from here, let's say I had a 2, I could go here to here, or I could go here to here. Again, I could not go here and then back to here. So let's just say I went 1 and 2. Then I look at this mountain village that I'm in, and it says 3. I get to go to the goods bag and draw 3 tiles out, and I can place them in my supply. You can never have more than 5 tiles, so if you ever draw more than that, you can choose which ones to keep and which ones to put back into the bag. And the other thing that I could do is I could move out to one of these coastal towns. And when I'm in the coastal town, what I can do is I can then sell my goods. So in this case, I have one set of this porcelain tea set, and I see right here that it's worth 3. So I could sell this, which would put it back into the bag, and now I would have 3 coins. Though, if I had been over here, I could sell both of these and instead gain 6 coins. And whatever it is you're doing, as soon as you have 10 coins, you immediately trade it in for one of these gold slabs, which you place down here, and that's going to tell you how many points you have. So in this case, I've now scored 5 points with my merchant. And another in-game trigger is if you fill up the entire row with gold slabs, and then you'll get, in this case, 45 points, and again, will trigger the end of the game. And the last one is the pilgrim. The pilgrim moves by the red die. And it's very simple. Whatever number you get, that's how many spaces you move. So if I got a 3, 1, 2, 3. And depending on what space you land on, you will do something different. If you land on these red spaces, you will advance up this track right here. If you land on these green spaces, you'll advance down this garden track right here. And this is how the pilgrim will score at the end of the game. At the end of the game, you will add up, or I should say, multiply these two values. So in this case, 5 times 5 would give me 25 points. The game will also end should either of these two tracks reach the end. There's a few other things that the pilgrim can do depending on where they stop. Should they stop here on one of these towns, they'll simply gain the coin value of the good that's connected to it, in this case 3. And that actually works towards the merchant's end goal. There is the hot spring right here, which allows you to take the hot spring token, and as long as you have it on a later turn, you can choose to spend the token to activate a die a second time, though you can't use it on the turn that you initially claim it, and should the other player land on a hot spring with their pilgrim before you've used it, then you will lose that token. We have the seaside here, which allows you to take one of these power-ups that will get placed onto one of your 3 workers, and it gives them the ability to do something a little bit better, maybe move further or not as far. Each one of them is different, and they're each double-sided, and they're very clearly explained on the lovely cheat sheets that you have here, and you have one of these cheat sheets for each of the different workers. And that's how the game works. You're simply going to play until one of these in-game triggers is reached, then at which point you will finish drafting all the dice, then you will clear the board off and flip it over, and then on the back you will be able to track your points. So in this case, if we'll say this was my in-game condition like so, I would do my 9 times 6 for 54, then I would add my 35, and then my 34, for a total of 123. And that's how this game works. So what do I like about this game? First of all, as is usually the case with Stonemaier games, it is a really nice production. It's clean looking, just like the original Tokaido. It's just a very clean, well, pretty game. But special shout out goes to the cheat sheets that it comes with. You can easily play this game with just those cheat sheets. I think it took maybe 2 minutes of explanation of the core rules, and then really easy to go with those cheat sheets. They're always right there. Just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful the way that works, and makes the game play a lot easier and faster, and I really, really appreciate that. I also really like that it's a small box, easy to take around, and you can actually probably make it even smaller if you really wanted to travel with it, just put it in something else. Now moving on to the game itself. To start with, I like Tokaido. I find it to be a very enjoyable game, and my wife also really enjoyed Tokaido when we first played that, I don't know, a few months or so ago. And she liked it so much that we played through one time all the way to the end, and then immediately reset the scores and played walking back the other way. It's a nice, fun, enjoyable game. And this one has the same vibe, but it is a very different game. It feels like this is the Tokaido cinematic universe. Like, it fits in the world, but it is a very different game, and that is really enjoyable to me personally, especially when I think about my favorite part of the game, which is the dice drafting. You're going to check those dice, and every turn you have to make this choice of what do I want to do, because usually you'll have 2 or 3 choices that you can pick from, and each one of those choices you're going to make is going to result in something really different as you're moving around the board. And I really like that. I think it adds a lovely little bit of tension, and, well, I just can't complain about it. I also like the way that the different merchants or pilgrims, meeples, move differently around the board. You have a lot of freedom when you're moving around with the artist of kind of where you cross the lines, and you have a little bit less freedom with the merchant as you're moving kind of to the center, picking stuff up, then moving and dropping off to the sides, and then you have no freedom whatsoever with the pilgrim. And that dichotomy, or trichotomy, I guess, is, again, just a nice little bit of brain burn that you have to figure out every single time you try to take your turn. And I enjoy that as well. And I already mentioned it's really easy to learn and play this, and you can play in an hour easy. Once you've played it a few times, probably half an hour. So really enjoy that. So what are my quibbles with the game? The first thing is, even though I like that it's a different game, knowing Tokaido is not going to help you be able to play this game. It's not. Thematically, it's kind of the same, and again, you have this traveling around this location, but knowing Tokaido does not help. just because you understand that game, you're not going to necessarily know anything about this game. It's not like Ticket to Ride. You know base Ticket to Ride, you're going to be able to understand the core concepts of any other Ticket to Ride. It's not like that. Next thing I'll say is, this game is all about the dice. The dice can simply screw you over. And case in point, the last time we played, my wife barely got anything on the garden and temple track. And it was simply because she was never able to. Even when she had first pick, it just never worked out that she was able to stop the pilgrim on those spaces. And she wound up losing, not because of that, she lost because I'm really good at games, but she lost in part because of that, because she simply could not go up those tracks, and that wound up hurting her all the way through the game. And then on the flip side of the dice, that's really the only change you're going to have in the game. It is going to be exactly the same arc. It's all going to come down to the dice. So what I'm saying is, if you are not into dice drafting, and you are not okay with the fact that sometimes you're just not going to be able to get something no matter how hard you try, then you're not going to like this game. But on the other hand, if you're like me, and you do like dice drafting, then it's a really pleasant, fun game. Doesn't take up a lot of space on the shelf, and I am really, really pleased with this game. So there you have it, folks. As always, if I made any mistakes in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments with the timestamp. I'll get that into the Klingon subtitles. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.